Yeah, so welcome to the first week of season 2 for our DZPD builds videos. This is technically 16th episode, like a
Mm-hmm.
lot. The guy dancing, who apparently stole my emote,
Hey, I got
my
this out
fav
of an apparel recently. I was all
my
excited about it because I
favorite
never.
favorite
Yeah.
emote.
See?
Yeah, there we go. Looking good. The Golden Voice Gaming Negan Killjoy, and tonight we are also graced with
There
the
we go.
presence of
There we
the
go.
very famous uh, Saggy Meatwad. What was the show you were on, Saggy? Adult
Aqua
Swim?
Teen Hunger Force.
Aqua Teen
Oh,
Hunger Force. That's right.
Aqua Teen
He's over
Hunger
here
Force.
regaling.
Yeah.
Definitely. So the name has absolutely zero relation to the show. None
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
whatsoever.
None.
None.
No relationship. You're not an Aqua
Nope.
Teen Hunger Force fan, then? Is that?
I think I may have watched one or two episodes when I was drunk once, but outside of that, nothing.
I think that's the only way anybody watches that show, to be honest.
I thought
I
that. Yeah, I
think
was
they're
gonna
more
say.
high
Pretty
than
sure that
drunk.
was the point of it.
Right.
Whatever.
Right.
Altered state of mind of some sort.
That's
Nice
right.
shorts,
That's right.
man.
Thanks.
America, right
America.
there.
Going for the
America.
tactical guy.
Yeah, you think you got it going on. That's for sure. Well, I like it. So tonight we're really gonna talk about TU6, because it came out Tuesday, and not gonna feature a build, but I'm gonna show you a couple cool things that come out of TU6 with regards to builds. I will say I'm pretty pumped about a lot of TU6, especially from a build perspective and putting builds together perspective. Still not sure what I'm building builds for at this point. That's maybe the one disappointment of TU6 is no new raid, and no
I
new
was gonna say
really.
you build builds because you like it, but now you're
I
like there's a
do,
purpose is what you're looking
I
for.
do, I do. But yeah, I mean, there's not like no new raid. The old raid still requires 8 people, which is still very problematic. To
Yeah,
put together
absolutely.
a coordinated 8-man group. Although I will say it would be easier for somebody to put a build together for the raid now. But there's not like any meaningful new in-game content other than the last 2 missions they released now have invaded versions. You can play them on heroic, and it's not like there's no new content. There's also 2 new missions. And I haven't played around. I have not done the mastery system in the excursion at all. We still have to do that.
So
We haven't done it.
that could be somewhere where builds could come into play a little bit though, because they have it's all timed. So I mean, depending on the
It's
build and what
timed.
you have going, and that stuff,
Yep.
it could be helpful. But there's something for you. Here we go.
Yeah.
Mastery
I
goals. Mastery
suppose
goal builds.
mastery goals. So we'll have to give that a roll. Maybe we'll have done that by next week, and we can talk about it a little bit. But so the big differences that came this week came a lot to do with loot acquisition. People are calling it loot 2.0 in reference to Diablo. And I think the first thing I'm going to talk about would be how you acquire loot. So now they've given targeted loot locations, which I think is amazing. And it's partly why I haven't done the mastery system, because I'm the kind of neurotic farmer. Negan loves to make fun of me for farming. I find ways to farm everything. I've been farming this week in Ghost Recon. Find one thing, do it over and over and over again until I get all the stuff I want. I farm in Borderlands. Now I can farm in a targeted manner. It's pretty sweet.
Can't confirm. I'm going to
So yeah.
send you a Case IH tractor. Little replica.
I need one. I do. My one son
Nice.
wants to actually be a farmer. I just want to be a loot farmer. Um, so I brought up my map.
Well, that's a
You can
conversation
see
for a whole
on here.
different episode.
Yeah, that is right. Totally true. So I brought up my map, and you can see on here a lot of new icons, right? So you have regional targeted loot. So for each one of the zones on the map, there's something. So for example, up in here, you have whatever the one, the rifle build thing, the rifle build one. Over here you have Fenris. I don't know the name of the rifle build thing because I never play with my rifle build. Yeah, over here you have Gila.
Overlord.
Overlord, yeah, that's right. Here you have Badger Tough, Murakami, Sokolov, DNH, Richter and Kaiser. Over here you have masks in general. Down here you have some gear mods today. We have sniper rifles down here in the bottom. Then at the certain missions, you each also have them. So like you could run a mission over and over and over again. Like holsters today is the mission for Jefferson Trade Center. I very mistakenly, so here's a super good advice for you, a little SGA. It's hard to tell the difference between assault rifle and rifle. So I ran Jefferson Plaza hoping for assault rifles and was sadly disappointed when it was actually rifles. Assault rifles today are Camp White Oak. So you may hear me say today because every day this changes. And it changes at 7 p.m. Central, so 8 p.m. Eastern.
5 p.m.
5
Pacific.
p.m. Pacific. Yep. So, you know, that's when it switches, and that creates some pretty interesting scenarios too, because you can be farming and then all of a sudden it's not the stuff you were getting before. Yeah, so that's how that targeted loot grind works, and so you can go do these specific things and you'll get rewarded with its bonus gear. So again, it doesn't really solve this doesn't solve the RNG problem. All your rolls are still random, but you can target the loot you're looking for and give you a better chance. So it does make that a much better scenario. And you'll get it. It'll be like a bonus thing. It'll show the icon, like it'll be an extra drop on top of what you already got, and it'll be like an icon of a knee pad or an icon for DNA. So that's been
And it flags
really
it too.
fun.
It actually calls out targeted loot as you do it.
That's true. It does say that,
So,
doesn't it? It
So
says
say that
targeted
in
loot.
bold letters for you. Flashing. They made it pretty obvious this time.
Yeah. So today I did some farming for Gila stuff, and I managed to get several different upgrades, and I got a new Berserk chest piece that I'm using. I'll show that in a second. Last night we were farming for Alps Summit gear because this whole zone was Alps last night, and that was all because I got a chest piece with 16% weapon damage and a backpack with 11. Because again, Alps rolls with really high stats. The other one to look for is when there's an Araldi zone, like same thing, get really high stat rolls. So again, you know, I think you could put a really solid build together in a much shorter period of time because of that. And yeah, pretty good stuff there.
And the other reason you can put a build together relatively quickly, I'm assuming you're going to go there in just a sec, is the new pieces and slots.
Yes, I am going to go there very soon.
There you go.
The other cool thing to farm, although less easy to farm, but there's all these new named pieces and named guns, and they have unique talents. So I'll show you, like, for example, in my stash here, I've got a couple of them. It's called the Firm Handshake, for example, which is a Sokolov glove, and you can see its talent is perfectly wicked. So that you can get stuff like that now. And these just randomly pop up. It does call them out when they do come up. Looks like he left. Cool. It does call them out when you get them, so that's kind of neat. And they also pop up in terms of weapons. Have you got any of the weapons yet, Negan?
I did, remember? I got the Pyromaniac. The perfectly ignited on it.
Right. Yeah. That's very cool.
Yeah, it's got the perfectly ignited, the 40% weapon damage to burning enemies, and then the 2 kills applies to the burning of the next enemy you hit, and all sorts of stuff. In fact, somebody was a little
Um,
upset because I got it.
Someone
I
was a
won't say who
little
that was.
upset about. No, I wasn't upset. I was happy for you. What are you talking about upset? I was not.
A little
That's
tear
not a
rolled down your cheek. You know it did.
that's not a fair characterization. Then that makes me sound like a heartless jerk.
Heartless
I'm not a
bastard.
heartless jerk. I'm not. I'm not a heartless. I resent that. But like for example, this gun, the tsunami, which has perfect pommel on it. Got this guy, which is the Tabula Rasa, which is perfectly steady-handed. Uh, Rifle, I got the Artist Tool, which has perfect rifleman. So you can see there's like a whole bunch of these new named weapons, and they have cool talents and they're fun. And then the armor pieces, I think I saw a chart today that had them all on it, and it was well, to say it was a little crazy was probably an understatement. It looks like there's right. So going to be fun chasing
You
that
saw a
stuff
chart
down.
that listed all the new parts and pieces and stuff like that. The 30 was
Mm-hmm.
it 32 or 36 new pieces?
Yeah, all the named ones. It had all the named guns
Holy
and all
crap!
the named armor, and then what their specific talent is, so you can really do some targeted looking around for stuff. I'll be honest, I'm excited. It seems pretty fun. One of the other things they did a big balancing pass. So best in slot stuff has changed. You can see I'm still running my P416 just because it was such a good roll, but like that's no longer the king gun anymore. So guns like the Carbine 7 have come into play. I think the best all-around gun now is probably the Police M4. But good shout out to my friend the ACR. That one's crawled up there a little bit in terms of stuff, and then even guns like the F2000. So you can see this is named orphan you can buy this week. If you find Cassie the vendor, the secret vendor, she's got the shield splinter, and it has perfect Optimus on, which I rolled Allegro onto it. Man, that's a beast if you're running a build that can run Optimus. So, again, just some different stuff to be on the lookout for. And then
Always
I'll
a
talk
plus.
about what you wanted me to talk about, Negan, which is well, yeah. So let's talk about some gear changes. Um, there is now for every piece other than 511 tactical, a piece of every brand set in every slot, which of course opens up a lot of options. Now, this is not a good example. This particular one is not a good example, although I did just put this build together today, and you can see on my Berserk build now, because of the fact that there are now Heraldi and Alp Summit pieces at every slot, I was able to look at this beast. I rolled a ton of health onto this thing, 28,000 health on a mask.
Jeez, damn.
Right. And they raised the recal cap up to 150 from 100. So like, for example, I was able to roll this 43,000 health onto this Gila holster that already had 13% health on it. So yeah, this build, like my Berserk build now has 332,000 health, right? So I mean that's ridiculous. One of the other things they did though is they made the talents exclusive. So you'll see on here it says unique talent, meaning I can no longer stack talents. Can't have two devastating and it won't turn it 10% weapon damage. So you also, when you think about hard hitting, this hit hard this week because hard hitting can't stack it anymore, right? And I had almost every piece I had hard. I had a version of it with hard hitting on it so I could stack tons of DP. So that's different. What it means is you end up trying out different some different talents. Now I'm just put this piece in. I don't really want skill haste here. But until I get something better, this mask had high DT and I was able to roll the health on it. You can now also roll any color over another color. So I'm not like beholden to the fact that have to have, a blue-red, for example, or blue-yellow, or red-yellow, or whatever. I can roll anything over anything else. So that's fantastic news, which of course opens up tons more build options and ease of putting together a build. But I want to show you a build where,
that is
where
really
this
nice.
made it.
I was talking to Segi about that before we jumped on the stream. Him and I were going over builds and talking about what he needed. And he goes, "Oh, I needed gloves with this and 2 reds," and he became relatively excited when he realized that you don't have to look for that particular glove. You can look for 2 separate gloves that have the reds you want and roll them together and put one of the reds onto one of the other gloves. So it's exciting. That does open up a lot of possibilities.
It does. It opens up a world of possibilities. So I want to show you how this has impacted things, having something at every slot, though, which I think is really cool. So I'm going to load up this build. This is my raid build, which, is unbreakable build. And because previously I basically had to run, a Fenris chest piece or a Fenris holster or a Fenris knee pads, right? Because those were my only options, really limiting in terms of my build. Now I have a Fenris mask instead, and you can see because I can't put hard hitting on it because I've already got it on my backpack. I was able to test out this other talent which I've fallen in love with. It's called Dialed In, which when you aim gives you 15% weapon stability, which is fantastic. There are some new talents available. I know there's one on the backpack that if your skills are doing damage, it gives you weapon damage, for example. There's one that if you're hitting headshots, gives you additional headshot damage. On my rifle build, which again you can see I was able to put the Fenris mask into as well, which opened up an option. I think before I had that on the knees, that gave me the option Douglas and Harding knees, which have composure on them, which is a super cool talent. While on cover, it grants you 10% total. There's a new chest piece talent, for example, that gives you 30% weapon damage whenever you're not taking damage for 5 seconds. Now, the way I play, as Negan knows, that'll never happen, so I'm not even farming for that chest piece. But I suppose in a true sniper build, you could put the trauma up here for the headshot damage. You could put that chest piece in here. You could have this 10% weapon damage. Maybe throw the skill damage thing on there and stack it. And hide way, way, way in the back. Throw a turret forward, hide way in the back, and just snipe people. Suppose that's a theoretical build you can put together. I mean, it sounds like a pretty good idea. As long as
it'd also be a nice,
damage.
not take damage. We got enough people in the group. You wouldn't be the main target unless you're me. No matter where I'm at, I seem to get shot no matter what. But but also good for support, because that's some of the other stuff we were talking about. That with the skills and stuff like that, they're starting to make the support builds viable again as well. So that's always a nice thing.
Now I will show you another build that I've featured before. This is my 3.11.7 Pokeball build. I thought these were going to get nerfed to the ground. This kind of hybrid build,
Everybody did. Everybody was all upset with the work they were doing with Pokeballs and stuff. Everybody cried.
Everybody
actually
cried.
saw it.
Yep. And they did nerf some things, right? They nerfed on the ropes. But if you find the backpack that has perfect on the ropes, it basically undoes that nerf. But I mean, weapon damage is increased by 15%. It's not. They took it down from 20. 15% is still great. Nothing wrong with that. This build still performs really well, right? It really genuinely does. They did the same thing with Spotter. They nerfed that from 20 to 15. But then you can get the mask that has perfect Spotter on it, so go right back up. So I mean, you just have to do a little farming, right? Compensated. They nerfed compensated down from 15% to 10. I really haven't noticed. It's not really that bad. It hasn't changed anything that meaningfully. I'm still pretty excited about it. I can recal these gloves too now. That's the other nice thing. Again, they raise the recal cap. So like previously these were stuck at 9%, but I can put 13% assault rifle damage on these now if I want to, which I will at some point. So I mean, again, I feel like overall this patch didn't hurt anything. Here's the coolest part, right? They did nerf the cooldown on Pokeballs. So my Pokeballs they don't come back quite as fast. It's like every 20 seconds now.
Compared to,
check out that damage.
What was it before?
I'm sorry.
What was it before that coming back?
So
it's come back every 20 seconds, but now what was it before?
It was like every 16 on this build,
Okay.
I think. I don't have a lot of skill haste on it.
So 4 Mississippis, and that's the difference. And them coming back first off. So, okay. All right.
Now, on this particular build, because I don't have a ton of skill power, not as much, my Pokeballs before I think were at like 430 damage. So my damage actually went up to like 475. So that's pretty sweet. I'm not gonna complain about that at all. On one of my other ones, which is my, I think, just traditional, this one. I was playing with this build last night. This is just a traditional 377. And I have calculated on my knees here, so I actually get them back even faster than the cooldown says. The cooldown here went up to 20 from like 12, but I get them back a ton faster. But look at that mine damage. It went from like 450 to 564.
And that is spread out now over 3 mines, right? That was the other thing they did. They took a mine away from that whole process. Didn't they? Didn't they go from 4 to 3?
Yeah, they did. Yeah.
Again, not a huge change, but a change.
Yeah, it's a change. So yeah, they did. They nerfed that down a little bit. But, again, whatever. They also nerfed Unstoppable Force a little bit. Brought it down from 2% weapon damage for every 25,000 armor to 1% for every 20. But everybody got an armor buff. So, again, all my builds have more armor than they had before. So I think it really kind of worked out okay. And because of some of the damage buffs they added to weapons and to some of the weapon talents, again, it doesn't feel any different than it did before. They're still not forcing me to really make the trade I thought they would force me to make, but here's the difference. So, like, for example, I talked about that talent earlier that when your skills are doing damage, you get 15% weapon damage. So that actually, you would think that would belong in a skill build, but it has a 9 red attribute requirement, meaning it's actually intended for people who are running a damage build, like a weapon damage build, who are also using a turret. So they didn't really fix the trade thing. It's not like I have to trade, my damage with skills to get weapon damage. I can still have both. I guarantee you this build still churns out a ton of weapon damage. And it churns out plenty of skill damage. I can't spam the Pokeballs like I once could. But on the flip side, they gave the people who have weapon damage even more weapon damage when they're using skills, even though their skills are maybe not potentially going to do a ton of damage. So, like, again, they could run a turret. So,
yeah, the talent you're talking about is called Spark.
Spark, yeah, that's the name of it.
And it's also with skills or grenades. It's both of them, according to the notes.
Yeah.
So
that's very cool. Nice. So if you run a turret, chances are you're basically always you're gonna have 100% uptime on that 15% additional damage.
Oh, and here again, not really sad about Tommy the Turret not putting out as much damage, but he's helpful now. He's still got uses.
I haven't gotten a good backpack with that talent on it yet, so I'm not running it. That's the one thing I'm farming for. Yeah, so overall, I would say I'm happy. How are you feeling about it, Negan?
I'm feeling good. Like we talked about with regards to the loot, I think we've often mentioned the whole RNG thing and the wall and all this other stuff, and it's still there. I mean, obviously the RNG is still there. It's still part of the game. It's still the point of looter shooters, which we've talked about numerous times. But I think with the targeted stuff, being able to go in and do specific missions and know, because it's guaranteed. It's not just like it's a percentage. If you hit a boss and a boss drops, you're getting some of the targeted loot. So
right.
As you're running it, something's going to happen. Whether it's the perfect piece or not is a whole different story. So I like that aspect. like you also with regards to the new weapons and stuff like that, that now you do have something to chase as well. I was concerned them adding 30 plus items to the pool would make the RNG even worse and just make it, almost, I wouldn't say pointless, but very tough and a whole nother wall to climb. But adding the stuff, the new stuff, and making them worthwhile finding, I think that helps a lot. So I'm pretty excited about those and the builds. I think I'll probably pay more attention to builds now, and it makes it the other easier when you're finding out when you're looking for stuff. You go out in the wild and you're looking, okay, well, like we talked about with Saggy earlier, talking about the glove with 2 reds. Now you can go out and look for 2 gloves with the reds you want and combine them with recal. So I think they did a lot of good things as far as that goes. I think they definitely opened up some possibilities.
Very excited.
And they did. Yeah, it's nice, right? Don't you? I think it's nice. I'm happy with it.
I can finally get rid of this crap 577 build with Frankenstein gloves, and yeah.
And then there's also the quality of life stuff that you're with the recalibration and just the look and feel. I think they kind of freshened it up too. So yeah, no, I'm pretty happy with it. I'm pretty happy with TU6 so far.
On first glance though, I will kind of go the other direction a little bit with that. It's slightly overwhelming when you first open it up and take a look at it. It's having all your stash visible now, I think kind of took me by surprise and just made it a little bit harder for me to find the exact piece I was looking for. But I've also been playing for maybe an hour or 2 after the patch drops, so yeah, still getting used to stuff.
Yeah. It is. I will say this. It is a little daunting. I would be lying to say it's not a little daunting. I think when you do actually look at it, there is a lot more going on, and this access to the stash. So for those of you who don't know, well, you can see on my screen, I've got the recal station up, right? And so it's pulling in even my stash gear into here. So like when I go to recal, I can recal stuff in my stash without ever pulling it out of my stash. That's kind of weird. I can use things that are in my inventory and recal them here. So that's kind of weird. I mean, the whole thing's a little strange, if I'm honest. And yeah, so I'm gonna show you. I can recal that assault rifle damage, right? So I'm gonna roll that over to 12%.
Just real fast, what you're talking about as far as the stash and stuff like that. They also added the ability to mark gear as you find it, or mark gear in your stash and or your inventory, so you can mark it as recal bait. So you can say this is going to be recalibration or this is for donations. So they did add some stuff that, yes, it's overwhelming. I'll give you guys that. But they do try to make some of the steps a little more obvious. So you can mark stuff for recal. So as you go through the list, you can see, oh, this is what I wanted to use. So they are.
So
I did kind of look at it from both sides.
I didn't even know that. So
I didn't either.
There's that, right? I didn't know that until you pointed out yesterday, Negan, and then I was like, oh, okay, I get it. But I didn't see that initially either.
Yeah,
cool.
No, I agree. Some of it's overwhelming. But that was just a nice thing I liked.
I'm glad they did that. I think that's pretty neat. But I didn't know it. So I have to fess up to that. I had no idea. I was like, yeah. It's cool though. I think overall I don't think I could be I don't know that I could be happier with it. I think it's really good. I think the only thing I would change is I wish there was more to do from an end game perspective. I don't feel like
that was disappointing.
Anything new to do, which of course kind
of outside the new missions that you can run through relatively. I mean, I think we already did them, the Pentagon and DARPA and stuff like that. We ran through those.
Yeah, but I mean that to me is not. I don't know, like It's definitely new. It's just not that.
Not a lot new. Not fresh new.
It's not a lot.
Yeah.
It's not. Yeah, it's not a lot.
Well,
it's
like
cool.
everybody
It's
was
just not.
expecting the raid, and that's what people were kind of looking forward to as far as episode 2, the new raid. And I think I don't want to. They kind of hurt themselves. When I say they, I mean Massive, by saying they're going to put it off until 2020, and that seems so far out there. That and that's I think what hurt them as far as saying rather than say why they're doing it or what or put it off till TU7 or episode 3, they weren't real clear on when they're going to drop it. So that was hurtful for people who are looking forward to the raid.
Yes. Yeah, I would say that is fair. And I know a lot of people are looking forward to the raid, and I know they're trying to do it right. At least that's the perception I have, is that they are really trying to do make it right. First time out, probably a lot of that comes down to balancing how many people. Because again, as I called out, like Saggy, you haven't run the raid, right? You're a raid virgin.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Haven't
So
found
again,
the time to get into it yet.
Yeah. And I think that's going to be the key. I think if you talk to people, that's probably the case for a lot of people. They probably have not run the raid because, it requires a lot of effort to find enough people to do it. I know.
Well, and
us,
honestly, before this, I really didn't even have a raid-ready build. And that's really what it came down to, is the time to farm that type of build. Just didn't have the time to put into it. But hopefully with the loot changes here, that'll give a little bit more flexibility.
And it should. I think it will. I think you will probably find that to be true. At least I hope it will be true, but I think it will. But yeah, I mean, you're talking, in essence, it's a big commitment to find 8 people who are ready to do that. So I don't, I think it takes a coordinated effort, a lot of time. So hopefully that's one of the things they're fixing. I would love to see the raid actually scale to be in line with the amount of people that show up. And I think 4 should be, like, it should require 4 people. But beyond that, I think it should be, 4 to 8 people, scaling based on that amount of people that show up. I know that limits some of the mechanics, but I think that's still the right way to go. So hopefully that's what they're working on with their time. We'll see. I'm not horribly disappointed. It's just, I think the thing it leaves us with is, and we've talked about this. We talked about it before we took our little break, Negan, but it's fun to play some other games too. So maybe this allows us to still play some Borderlands and some Ghost Recon.
It does allow more
and still enjoy this
to games. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Still one of my favorite games, as we've talked about. Even though we do drift into other games, it's still one of my favorites. So.
Oh, by far and away.
It's fun to come back.
I love this game.
Yeah.
Love this game. I know Saggy loves this game. I think all of us love this game. We all have always.
The only thing that I think is missing from this, and I'm hoping will come at some point, is survival. And I know I just scratched. I just got Negan all excited.
Yeah, you triggered me, man. Now I'm all hurt. Got to curl up in a ball and cry.
I think there were a lot of people hoping for that to get announced with this particular, patch, was that they would have some sort of timeline for that, and they haven't. My guess is, I mean, Cynic in me says they're going to wait till that's paid DLC, which means after year 1 is over.
Right.
Just a guess.
I don't know. The early, like at the game's release, when they were talking about the different seasons and everything, and I can't remember if it was the 3rd one or the 4th one, but they showed a screenshot or a video, and it looked like there was snow falling in DC. Like, it showed a screenshot of the settlement downtown in, like, the first settlement you get to, and there was like snow falling, or at least that's what Reddit was saying. But man, that would be sweet if they put it here.
I agree. I think it would be a lot of fun. And I still am itching for the procedurally generated random dungeon thing like they had with Underground. And I know they intend those excursions to kind of be that, but it isn't. It's not procedurally generated. I like the Infinite Forest in Destiny 2 when they turned it into the Haunted Forest for the Halloween event. And I would love to see something like that in here. You know, where it's like procedurally generated random dungeon that you kind of keep progressing through. Get escalatingly harder enemies and better reward. And I know that's what they envisioned Underground to be, and then it was that to some extent, although needed a. But I wouldn't mind seeing that back. All that said, we're over time, and I want to be able to go play the game, like just for fun. I don't know about you guys, so I think next week.
Yeah, sounds good to me.
A build, or really go in depth on some changes to a build. Hopefully, give me another week to put something new and interesting together. Yeah. So with that, Negan, you get to sign off as usual for us. So.
I will. And before I sign off, thanks to the special guest Segi for joining us, claiming that he doesn't watch Aqua Teen Hunger Force. We know he does. We know he's got the whole DVD collection and stuff like that, downloaded and all that stuff on his computer.
You got me. It's sitting right there, right in front of me. I can't, guess can't deny it.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. On that note, see ya.
And we're out.